Hello, my name is Jeremy and this is your first guitar lesson. So the first thing we got to know on our guitar is just what are the string names. We got to know what we're going to tune our guitar to each time we pick it up so that everything sounds right when we put our fingers down. Alright, a good mnemonic device to learn that is every apple does go bad eventually. So that's from our thickest, lowest pitch string to our highest pitch string. We have E, A, D, G, B, and then E. Every apple does go bad eventually. So when we're tuning our guitar to those pitches, it's usually best to try to come up to that pitch from a lower pitch, and this will ensure your guitar string is not going to slip down. If you come from a higher pitch to a lower pitch, there can be a little bit of extra tension on the other side of the nut, and that can cause your guitar strings to slip out of tune a little easier. But again, tuning something you're going to have to do every time you pick up your guitar. It's just one of the things about this instrument. Next thing to understand is kind of how our strings are set up in relationship to each other. So what we find is if we come to our 5th fret, we play this note on our E string, we get an A note. That's the same as our next open string, A. On the A string, 5th fret is a D, same as our next open string. D string 5th fret is a G, same as our next open string. Here we get a little adjustment that's important to understand. We come to the 4th fret and we get a B on our G string, same as our next string there. So that little difference kind of explains why a lot of things on guitar may look different but are actually the same. So lastly, we come back to the 5th fret on the B string, we get an E, same as that last open string there. And you can even tune your guitar this way, making sure the strings sound the same if you don't have a tuner. Okay. So with that information, we can go ahead and try to play our chromatic scale across the strings, and we can cover 3 octaves playing 4 different E notes along the way. So when we do that, we're going to start on the open E string, our lowest note. We're going to play each finger, first finger, 1st fret, second finger, 2nd fret, 3rd finger, 3rd fret, 4th finger, 4th fret. Then, instead of playing that 5th fret, we can just go to our next open string. When we do that, we're traveling by half steps, doing our chromatic scale. Half step on a guitar is just 1 fret movement. So, again, starting on the open string, playing each finger up, next open string, playing each finger, next open string, we're on our D here, all the way up to that 4th fret. When we get to our G string, only going to play 3 fingers, okay, up to that 3rd fret. Then we get our B note. Back to the 4th fret on our B string. All the way up to our 4th fret here, and then we're going to do a hand position adjustment. We're going to move our pointer finger to the 5th fret. Another hand position adjustment. Pointer finger to the 9th fret. And then we work our way all the way up to that 12th fret. So whenever we hit a 12th fret, that's our octave of our open string. There are 12 half steps in an octave, okay? So once we play that 12th fret there, we're actually playing perfectly in the middle of our string. A little physics lesson: when you divide a string in half, you get double the frequency, and that's what an octave is. All right, now we're gonna work our way back down. Again, 3 distinct hand positions here, so we use every finger once in each position. Play all the way down to the open string, then the 4th fret of the next string, all the way down to the open string, and here on our G string, remember, only come to the 3rd fret. All the way down to the open string, and continuing on, all these coming to that 4th fret. there we just covered 3 octaves. So then You also know that your guitar has just a little bit over a 3-octave range there. All right, so that's a great exercise, not only for understanding how our guitar is set up, but also we get to practice using each one of our fingers of our left hand. And another thing I didn't mention, but is important to start trying to do while you're trying this, is alternate picking with your right hand. Doing a down pick, pushing down on the string, followed by an up pick. This keeps efficiency of motion and will eventually help us with keeping rhythm as well. Cool. So, the next thing to learn on our guitar is the note names on our E string and our A string. So once we learn the E string, we actually get 2 strings down, right? We got 2 E strings. So any note that we have on a fret of our E string, for instance, we already said this 5th fret is our A, right? High E string, 5th fret's our A as well. So we get 2 strings down by learning this one string. When we learn this, we just have to keep in mind our musical alphabet. It goes from A to G and then repeats over. We get 2 points where we get a half-step movement between our letter names. And that's between B and C and in between E and F. So this is like if you were to look at a keyboard, right? We get a group of 2 black keys and a group of 3 black keys. And then in between those groups are 2 white keys right next to each other, right? So that's the B and the C and the E and the F right there, where we get that half-step movement. Every other note name gets a whole step or 2-fret movement. So when we start on our E string, E, half-step movement to F, whole step movement to G. That's our highest note in our musical alphabet. Start back over at A after a whole step. Whole step to B. And then again, this is our half-step movement to C. Whole step to D. And then we already discussed this significance of this 12th fret, right? It's our octave again, so we're back at E where we started. Now we can work that backwards to help memorize. E, D, C, B, A, G, F. Half step to that open E string. Okay? When we come to our A string, we're going to do the same pattern. We're just starting on A. So A, whole step movement to B, half step movement to C, whole step to D, whole step to E, half step to F, whole step to G, and then we're back at our 12th fret again with the whole step, and that gives us our A again, coming backwards. G on the 10th fret, whole step down to F, half step to E, whole step to D, whole step to C, half step to B, and then our open A string. So if we can memorize those 2 strings early on, that's going to set us up for knowing where to stick any bar chords we might learn or other closed position chords. Also, it will just make it a lot easier if you're like looking at a chord chart. You're going to know, oh, I can put my fingers on that 5th fret here on the A string and I can get a D chord, right? If I know my major bar chord, I just need to know what the root note is, and then I can play that chord based off that. So we're going to start practicing that with just a real simple power chord. So a power chord's essentially just 2 notes. It's a 5th interval. So we're going to play, starting on our E string 5th fret again, that A note, and our A string 7th fret. So essentially when we make this chord, we're going to stick our first finger on the E string and our second finger 2 frets higher on the A string. And we're going to keep that relationship and we're going to move it around a little bit. So I'm just going to say note names, and I want you to practice strumming along with a quarter note with me and just moving to these different note names as I say them, and that'll help us memorize them. A, B, C, D, A, G, A, C, B, D, So that gives us a little bit of rhythmic practice with our right hand. Also helps us practice moving this power chord shape around as we learn these note names. Now we're going to do the same thing on the A string, okay? So first finger on the 5th fret of the A string here on our D note. And then our 3rd finger is going to be 2 frets higher on the D string. All right, now we're just going to move this around in the same way, keeping a nice, steady quarter note tempo. So we're on D, E, F, G, D, C, B, D, C, E, D, F, E, G, F sharp, F, E, D sharp, D, C sharp, C. Good. So now we're getting comfortable with our note names on those first 2 strings, and that's going to set us up to find chords that are using root notes off of those 2 strings, which is going to be your most common chords that you're starting off with. All right, let's move this to learning a couple open chords now and kind of give this a full rounded introductory lesson here. So we're going to learn 2 chords here, the E major and the A major. The E major starts with an open E string. Our 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the A string, 3rd finger on the 2nd fret of the D string, and 1st finger on the 1st fret of the G string. And we're going to strum all 6 strings. When you're first learning these chords, it can be helpful to play individual strings to make sure everything's ringing out, make sure your fingers aren't muting any of those other strings here or kind of piling up and blocking things, or if we're not pressing down quite hard enough. Another tip is the closer you are to the fret, the less you have to press down to get a nice clear note. So try to be right behind that metal fret there, but not on top of it. All right, the next chord is our A major, and this is going to start on the open A string, then pointer finger on the 2nd fret of the D string, 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the G string, and 3rd finger on the 2nd fret of the B string. Again, you can practice plucking 1 string at a time, making sure everything's ringing out nice and clear there. When we strum this, just strumming 5 strings, leaving off that low E string. What you might have noticed is these grips are very similar in relationship. It's just one note has been raised up a fret from the other one, right? We get 2, 2, 1 in our E chord, and then 2, 2, 2 in our A chord. So that all comes back to that G string, B string relationship. So if we can understand this early on, we can start to see how a lot of things are more similar than we might expect on the guitar. So our notes are actually all in the same relationship between these 2 chords. Obviously we get 1 extra string with the E chord. But we've made this little adjustment on our B string to raise that note up a fret to keep things in the same relationship here. All right, when we practice changing between these chords, we're just gonna start off with whole notes. So we're gonna strum the chord, count 4 counts, strum the next chord. It's way more important to make sure we're landing on the 1 with our next chord as opposed to holding out each chord. So if you need to pick the chord up a little early to get to that next chord on the 1, then do that, because that's going to help you develop your rhythmic sensibility more so than scrambling to find the next chord and strumming it a little late. We want to really feel that pulse and land on each chord on the downbeat. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, one thing that can help with this transition is kind of seeing when you've got fingers in a similar relationship. So our second and third fingers, we can kind of move those together and try to move that pointer finger up above them, as opposed to trying to put each finger down individually. If we can move them as a group, we can save a little time and efficiency right there. And then same thing when we're coming up, move those two together and then switch that pointer finger behind them. Okay. So now we're just gonna do half notes, so 2 counts per strum here, and strumming on 1 and 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Good. So what you notice is we gave ourselves half as much time to make that transition. So this is a good way to work out any new chord progression where you're not super confident with how to get to those grips, or there might be just like a difficult movement. That's a good way to start slowly, and then slowly pick up that tempo so that you have less and less time to make that transition, and you'll build that muscle memory. So now we're going to do quarter notes, 1 strum per count. 1, no, I'll count us in. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. So these are all really foundational things that you should do in addition to trying to learn some songs. What I find is a lot of people pick up the guitar and they just go straight to learning songs, and they never learn these little things that will actually help make it a lot easier to learn or write music in the future. So I'm not saying don't go learn a tab or learn another YouTube video that teaches you how to play a song. Please do that, but also pepper these ideas in so you have a good foundation along with learning some of those songs. Take care.